I'm a tolerant person. and let no one tell you any different. I allow people a little bit of leeway, a bit of room to manoeuvre, so to speak. As I say, I'm a tolerant person. And when it comes to neighbours, well, I'm a tolerant neighbour. If there's a bit of a DIY session going on, even on a Sunday morning, well, so what? I let it go. It's only a bit of hammering and banging. It's not going to hurt anyone. Or if there's an all-night party going on and it goes on into the wee small hours, so you've got to enjoy yourself sometimes. You've got to let your hair down, haven't you? And as I say, I'm a very tolerant person. And let me tell you, I've had my fair share of odd neighbours. There was this one woman when I lived in Capernaum. Oh, she had this strange obsession with Barbra Streisand. And for 2 hours every morning while she did her housework, she would have her at full volume blasting out. It was terrible. But did I complain? No. Each to their own. And then there was another chap that I lived next to. He had this strange obsession with shelves. Yes, shelves. He used to be banging and hammering, putting wonky shelves up most days of the week. But did I complain? No, I didn't complain. Everyone's got their hobby. As I say, I'm a tolerant person. But I think a line has to be drawn. And I think you'll agree with me, that line should not be crossed. Well, anyway, I can remember this evening. It was a Wednesday evening because I was just coming back from my line dancing session. I looked a bit of a divvy in my hat, in my boots, and my jacket. And I thought, walking home, I lived in a lovely place, very quiet, very select. But I walked around the corner into the cul-de-sac and I could not believe my eyes. My jaw just dropped. Tonight, it was like the Mardi Gras. There was people all over the place, singing, dancing, making a lot of noise. I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. What was happening? And it all seemed to be centred around my neighbour's house. Anyway, I pushed through the crowds, got to the front door, and eventually got in. Shut the door behind me, and I thought, thank goodness for that. So, took off my hat, kicked off my boots, and I thought, I'll put the kettle on. I'll have a cup of herbal tea. So I thought, right, okay. So the neighbour's having a party. There's been a few uninvited guests turn up. It's a bit noisy. It's getting a bit out of hand, but hey, so what? As I say, I'm a tolerant person. So, makes myself a cup of tea. And I thought, I was feeling so proud of myself. I thought, I think I'll treat myself to a chocolate hobnob. So I sat down, put my feet up, had my cup of tea, and I was just about to take a bite out of my chocolate hobnob when all of a sudden there was this almighty banging. And I mean banging. It made the house shake. And I thought, what is happening? So I jumped up out of my seat and I thought, right, I'm going to find out what's happening. So I went outside. There was still a lot of people around, singing, dancing, making a lot of noise. But then, all of a sudden, out the corner of my eye, I saw on the roof what looked like vandals on my neighbour's roof. And I thought, right. So I ran up the stairs on the outside of the house, ran up the stairs, got onto the roof, and there was 4 of them, and they were ripping the roof. They were making a hole in the roof. And I thought, oi, what are you doing? I says, this is not changing rooms or any other DIY programme you tend to watch. And I thought, what are you doing? And I've got to say, they did look a bit petrified. So, for a minute, they were just silent. And then one of them said, we're doing it for him, our friend. And they were pointing to a man who was lying on, like, a stretcher. He didn't look very well. So I went over, and what they were doing, they were pulling the roof apart, and his friends were saying, we want to get this man down into this house through the roof because we can't get him through the front door. There's too many people. We need to lower him down to see the healer. There was this healer in the house, this famous healer. So they'd hinged a pulley, a homemade pulley, which to me, I've got to say, it didn't look all that safe. So then I thought, well, that didn't look safe. And then I looked at the man and I thought, well, he really hasn't got a lot to lose, has he, really? So they hoisted him up, got him sorted, and then they started to lower him down this hole they'd made very slowly, and we were watching as he was lowered down. Eventually, he was lowered down in front of this man who was the healer. The man on the stretcher, well, he was just looking at this healer. I mean, his face was full of, well, pain, and a lot of it was hope. His face was so hopeful that this man could do something for him. And you know what? I mean, the house was crowded. You know what the healer said, which I found a bit odd? He said, son, your sins are forgiven. Well, that was it. Oh, there was absolute uproar in the house. There was noise, there was shouting, and there was these men who were in the crowd who didn't like this healer very much. They were shouting, that's blasphemy. How dare you? Only God can forgive sins. Well, I thought, oh, there's going to be trouble. So the healer went over to them, and he was like, you know, he weren't frightened. He was squaring up. And I thought, oh, what's going to happen? And he says, yeah, fair point. Anyone can say your sins are forgiven. So you know what he did? He turned back to the man who was lying on the stretcher, and he said, take up your bed, get up and walk. Well, you could hear a pin drop. It was silence. And it just seemed to stop. And you know what happened? We were all looking down. The man got up, rolled up his bed, and he started to walk. Well, again, the house was in uproar. Everybody was shouting and just cheering and everything like that. We couldn't believe what we were seeing. I mean, we nearly fell down the hall ourselves, but we were so excited. But it was just amazing what had happened. And you know something? When I think about it, after it happened, if I've got one complaint about my neighbour, is if he's in future, if he's going to host parties like that and have guests like that, well, surely, as a tolerant neighbour, I should be invited and I should have front row seats whenever that will happen.